presentation and public speaking. It is actually it's a very engaging way and an effective way for us to evaluate the student's ability to perform or student's ability to use the language and perform it. And there are a lot of things going on here when you ask a student to speak in front of many people. There's this anxiety, this nervousness. All of a sudden, they forget everything. They lose their coherence. They lose their ability to communicate clearly. And there's so many things that we can actually teach to the student on how they can improve the way they communicate. And this is not just about speaking in front of many people. It's actually going through the entire process, which I'm going to share in this video. And we're going to find out on how we can make full use of public speaking as a way to help students practice English. So here we're going to look into how public speaking can be an effective tool for improving learners' English skills. Also, we're going to get to understand how public speaking can be used in English classes. And finally, how we can use public speaking activities to achieve English learning goals. Well, to begin with, usually the question is like, yeah, what do students have to present? Well, there's so many things that they can present in a class. Whether it's a long class or it's a very short class, they still get to present something. This is not just about monthly or final presentation, which you normally would ask the student to do either in a formative or summative assessment. It can also be a homework presentation. It could be as simple as that. For example, okay, so yesterday I gave you a homework assignment. Would you like to present your homework assignment? Like, I'd like you to present what you did. Or it could also be an information sharing. For instance, tell me something what you did yesterday. Or last weekend, you told me that you went to the park. What did you see? Can you tell me something about the park? This simple questions can actually lead the student to present, and they're presenting their ideas right off the bat. It's a very good measure for their ability to speak out their thoughts in English, to construct their ideas, to make it coherent. And of course, there's also a purposive or theme presentation. For instance, you're going to ask a student to persuade or to pitch or to introduce. So there's so many ways to have the student do a presentation, and there are so many things that students can talk about when they are delivering, I would say, a short presentation or even a long one. Oh yeah, I almost forgot this, reflection or summary. Like towards the end, we could have this exit question. Okay, before I let you guys go, in 3 sentences, I'd like you to summarize what you've learned in this class, and which is very helpful because it will also give you an idea how much they have absorbed and what you could do better in the next class. And in that particular method, you're allowing the student to construct their own ideas, to, like you're doing the higher order thinking skills for them. And you're allowing them to recreate or create their own ideas and, express it in English. Now, one thing that you're going to notice is that many students are very anxious to speak up. Even if you're just asking a question to the class, probably very few of them would raise their hands. And just simply because they're not that confident. It's not that they don't know it, but it is not their nature to be so, I would say, proactive, to take initiative. They're not going to be the ones who would like, hey, I know the answer and I can explain that. No, you will hardly ever experience this. Most of the time, especially in the beginner level, students are just going to be sitting right there looking at you. So how can we break the ice? Make it sure that you have a topic related to the lesson. If you're asking them to present something that you have never taught, expect that you're not going to get a positive result. So make it sure that what you're going to ask them to present is something that you have taught and something that they have fully understood. And then, of course, for beginner or even some intermediate in the lower intermediate level, make sure that you introduce some keywords, something that they can actually use to present. For instance, transitional devices, signposting, or even how to open a speech. You can either write it down or give them handouts, and then explain how to use them and when to use those expressions. Then comes with the topic. So you're trying to put them all together, and it makes the student easier for them to speak up. Oh, I think I missed someone. Yeah, and prep time, of course. That you're not gonna have the student, okay, I'd like you to do a short presentation that goes for 2 minutes right now. No, give them prep time, all right? This is an online class, okay? This is an online class. So you don't expect that they could come up with brilliant ideas or a very powerful speech in just a few seconds. So allow them to process their thoughts, to think and organize. So you could say something like, all right, okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute to prepare. Okay, I'm going to be quiet. I'd like you to go deeper with the topic and then use these expressions that you've just learned and present your idea based on this. So 1 minute preparation begins now. So that is how I usually do it in an online class. Now, as the student gives his or her presentation, it's very important that we, as teachers, we time the presentation. You know, I use cards, colored cards, and this is something that I learned from Toastmasters. They have green, yellow, and red, which later on you will watch a demo video and you will see there on how I use these color cards. This is a way for me to remind the students how much time he or she has left so that I can control the timing. And of course, for the student part, it will allow the student to think, okay, how can I make my speech very brief, but very, I would say, very solid. The key message is there. And then also, you might want to tell the student, okay, as you are presenting your ideas, I'm going to take notes. So don't be bothered by that. You have to mention this to the student. Otherwise, students will be like, oh my God, what are the teachers doing? Yeah, you have to let them know that you're going to take note of their grammar, or, you need to have a rubric. And you could show this to the student at the beginning so that at least they know what are they going to be assessed against. And later, as they do their presentation or as they give their presentation, you can take note of it, and which you could show it after they finish the presentation. And then, of course, after the student finished the presentation, you can do a kind of interview, asking them 3 to 5 questions so that it can go deeper. You can make their ideas, I would say, elaborate, Now, once the student finished presentation, what I normally do is I ask questions, just like what I said earlier. I normally go through this set of questions. I would say, like, why did you choose the topic? Or why did you say that, for instance, like homework should be reduced in classes or in school? Or why did you say that students should have games in the class or in an online class? And then I might also want to ask, okay, look, you said this, it was very clear, but what would you like your listeners to do? So this is more of like a thought-provoking question. It allows them to think critically. It's not just a surface level of thinking, because you know what? I'm telling you this, students, when you ask them to do presentation and you give them enough time to prepare, they're so good at it. But when you ask them questions, when you go into this critical thinking question stage, you will just see a huge gap. You will hear a huge gap. Like, okay, you were doing perfectly before, and then now you were having a lot of gap fillers. You cannot make your ideas coherent. You don't even know what to say. So this is also a good way for you to evaluate how well they know the subject and what you can actually do or suggest for them to improve. So that is also similar to the last item. In your presentation, you mentioned this, and then you want the student to elaborate it further. You know, in an online class, this is gonna be fun because as you do the presentation, or as the student finishes the presentation, this kind of questions will allow the student to think critically, and the conversation becomes natural. And the good thing about it is that you're having a discussion and you're still staying within the topic. You're not getting off track. You're not getting off the topic. So you're giving the student an opportunity to actually converse with you, to use the language in a very natural way. Or you can even play the devil's advocate. No matter you agree or disagree, you will just have to go the other way around of what the student said. It's more of like a debate. Okay, so evaluating presentation is kind of tricky because there are so many things that you will hear and you might want to have all of them evaluated, but focus on the goal. What exactly are you evaluating, or what exactly are you assessing? What is, or what are the key points or key skills that the students need to demonstrate in his or her presentation? So first of all, I would say give feedback and correction, right? So it's very important that you tell them what are the things that they did well. You know, this is not just about making them feel good, but it's also letting the student remember what they did well. It gives them confidence, and at the same time, they would know, oh, this is the right thing. I should keep doing this. And then, of course, correction. I suggest cold correction. Don't interrupt them as they present. Just like what I mentioned before when they're giving role play or when you're having a role play, never interrupt them in the middle of this kind of activity. Let them speak freely. And then, of course, suggest areas for improvement. And, you know, since we're talking about the timeliness of their presentation, you might want to suggest on how to present in a very succinct but clear manner. You're not going to tell the student something like, okay, next time, make your speech just within 2 or 3 minutes. You might want to tell how to do it. I noticed that you have been repeating this idea, I think 3 or 4 times, and you might want to get rid of those. You have already said that at the beginning, and then you just have to move on. Or you could also help the student how they can make their, I would say, sentences shorter and clearer. You know, they have this tendency to beat around the bush. So you have to guide them on how to present their ideas in a very succinct and clear manner. And of course, since you are going to do the interview part, you might also want to, you know, give suggestions for improvement, right? How the student can answer interview questions, because this is going to be very useful for them, not just for the online class, but it's also for anything that they're going to do in the future, whether it's going to be for school application, job application. You know, it's very important that we help them how to respond to interviews. Now I'm showing you some guidelines here, things that I normally look into when a student delivers a short speech or presentation. So first of all, was there a structure? Is there an opening, body, and closing? And was the speech relevant to the topic, or did the student talk about something else? And then number three, did the student use keywords or key expressions that I taught them, or did they not use it? If they don't, then I have to remind them. So that is why at the beginning, I need to remind them, hey, I taught you this, and I hope that you can use this when you deliver your speech about this. And then, of course, did the student use appropriate language? Are the words used by the student actually, I would say, give you a deeper understanding of what the student is trying to say, which is similar to number 5. What do you understand from his or her presentation? Okay, so right after this, you will watch, or you're gonna see a video demonstration on how I gave the student a presentation. I'd like you to watch closely, and then you can ask these questions to yourself and then look into how the student performed. You can write down your notes on the comment page or comment section, share your thoughts, and you might also want to think on how I could have done better. So enjoy this video, and I'll see you in the next module.
I just want you to take a look at the following vocabulary words on the screen. Do you have any questions about this, or do you understand each term shown on the screen?
Mostly, but I'm not worried. Um the definition about the localization, a little bit not very clear about it. So please, yeah.
Okay, so when we say localization, you could just simply imagine this. Burger King. Have you been to Burger King?
Yeah,
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 so
yeah.
Burger King, if you like the last time you went to Burger King, you noticed that there were some Chinese menus, right? Like Chinese dishes, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
like surprising because Burger King happens to be an American brand. Now, why is it
Well,
that
yeah.
this American brand is selling Chinese dishes or or why do they have a Chinese menu? It's simply because they want to cater to the interest of the local people. And that is what we call it localization. Another example,
Okay.
when you visit a
Yeah.
website, you will notice that there there's probably a tab there where it allows you to change the language. Whatever language, it could
Mm,
be Chinese, French, Spanish, or even Filipino. The reason why they're putting these kind of option is because they want, for example, in China, they want the Chinese users to understand the content of the website in their own language, which is Chinese. So website developers and designers will add this tab where they can ship or switch it to Chinese. And that is again localization.
okay, I got it. More like to into the other city, and more like local things.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Now, what is globalization and localization? I have already explained what is localization based on your understanding. What is globalization and localization? And you might also as well answer this question: is China a globalized country? Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds to prepare, and you have 2 minutes to answer these questions. So 30 seconds. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut so that you can prepare and organize your ideas. And then in 30 seconds, I'll give you 2 minutes to answer these questions. So I got my timer here. By the way, I'll be showing some cards. I mean, not cards, but colored papers. Okay. So when
Okay.
you see
Thank you.
the yellow one, it means that you have already, sorry, when you see the green one, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
if you see the green one,
Mm-hmm.
it means you have already spent 1 minute, and that means you only have
Mm-hmm.
a minute left. If you see the
Okay.
yellow bird passing by, that means you only have 30 seconds left. And if you see the orange bird flying, that means your time is up and you have to wrap it up smoothly. All right?
Okay.
Okay, so
Right.
30 seconds for you to organize begins now.
Okay.
Okay, Shiloh, time's up. Are you ready? 2 minutes,
Yeah.
short speech. Let's begin.
Okay. As we know, globalization is a process of interaction and integration among people, companies, and governments and worldwide. And and also the local localization is a process of making something local in character, organization, or company localized to the local uh, place, so you can manage your team and the success in Chinese market. That's what my point. And I believe if you go through make more research about the local market, your business will boom. That's what I'm my opinion. Yeah. And China, as we know, China is a globalized city, as my point in my point. But on in some place like the Shanghai or Beijing, they are globalized country cities. But in the Middle East or Far East, just like do not fly the birds. I see it. Time's out.
What do you
Thank you.
feel, Shiloh?
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Nervous.
pressure. Nervous? Why did you feel
Mm,
nervous?
I don't know. I'm afraid I'm not make my opinion in the 2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in a short speech, we expect that we deliver the main idea in a very short period of time. So we do our best to cut down unnecessary pieces of information. Now, let me give you some tips here. First of all, there are two
Yeah.
questions, which is really tough because you're answering two questions. So
Mhm.
the best thing that you can do is to find the link between these two questions and put them down in your answer. So, for
Mhm.
example, if
Yeah.
after you have explained globalization and localization, you could probably introduce China, which you actually did. I thought you were getting there to what I was expecting because you were talking about the Chinese culture when you talk about the localization. It was already there. But all of a sudden, you probably got, I would say,
Mm.
distracted with the time, or you got a little bit rattled with the birds flying. So after you have mentioned the Chinese culture, you could say, for instance, China being a globalized country, you gotta mention
Right.
that. At least you're making a
Right.
link between the first question and the second question.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So I would
Good.
explain first what globalization is based on my understanding. I would just probably give examples, just like what you did, or just like what I did earlier when you asked me, what is localization? I just gave you an example.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
You
I should have
know,
done that. Yeah. Example make more clear and let.
exactly. You know,
Yeah,
in
that's.
most.
Thank you so much for being with me and for patiently waiting for the second part of this series. I know it has been a long wait. One student even messaged me, and I do sincerely apologize for that, but here we are. And again, once again, I can't thank you guys enough for being here with me. I guess I've said this twice, but I'm so happy that we've gotten this far with my course. And I hope that you pick up a lot of valuable lessons that you can use with your online classes. Keep in touch. See you around.